I'm going to move right into our group from Costa Rica, and I'm going to ask René to unmute his mic, introduce the members on your panel, René, and tell us about the project that your group has been working on.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you. This second part of the session, it's about asking the community members of Creole languages, well, simple questions, but at the same time that they could engage us in what the realities of the whole Caribbean are, right? So right now, yeah, you said something about Limonese Creole, but we have one from Limonese Creole, one from Rama Creole in Nicaragua, one from Papiamento, and one speaker from St. Lucia and Creole, right? So let me see if I can share my screen, I think.
Yes, you should be able to.
Let's see. So, yeah. So this is talking about our languages, Creole speakers from the Caribbean. And basically the format we'll have is this. We'll have a brief introduction, general linguistic background of the languages. I will have the speakers introduce themselves, and then discussion questions that I will lead to them, like different questions for them. Concluding remarks from the speakers, and finally we have questions for the audience as you tell us to do, right? So it is important to know that this is like an opportunity for the community to speak out. Why? Because always academia is working, and normally the community has to adapt to academia, right? So sometimes it's also important to remember that academia has to adapt to speakers, and this is what we are trying to do with this session. So the questions that I will address will be in English and in Spanish to the speakers, but if they can answer in their Creole language, it will be better, because we have a broad audience from which we can receive much feedback in the case. So the first speaker, the first language is spoken here in St. Lucia. It's Kwéyòl, or St. Lucian French Creole. And the speaker that we have, well, it has around 160,000 speakers. The speaker that we have, the guest for today, is Ronald Francis. He is a PhD candidate in a TA in a University of the West Indies in St. Augustine campus, and his interests are in cross-linguistics transfer, learner corpora, and second language learning. The second Creole we have is spoken here in Costa Rica, especially in the Caribbean coast. It is called Limon Creole, or Limonese Creole, and it's around 60,000 speakers. The guest that we have today is Gloria Thompson. She's a teacher by profession, but she's also the author of the first orthography for the Limonese Creole language. It's been around for 2 years, that orthography that we have. The third guest that we have for today, it's from Aruba. The language, of course, is Papiamento, around 412,000 speakers, and her name is Josephine Windt, and she's a bachelor student of the Papiamento program at the Instituto Pedagogico Arubano, and she would like to continue her studies at the master's degree at the University of Curacao for the Papiamento program, to be an instructor of Papiamento. And the last speaker we have, it's from Nicaragua, especially from Rama Creole. Rama Creole is very interesting because it is a Creole language adopted by indigenous Amerindian people as their native language, right? So it has around 800 speakers in Ramaki, in Nicaragua, and he is Silvano, or Ervin Hodgson, and he was the first Rama person to earn a master's degree. He's a PhD student at Universidad Internacional Interamericana in Mexico, and right now he's the director of the Instituto de Promoción e Investigación Lingüística. So I would like every single speaker to introduce themselves. So let's see if we can start. Let me see if I can stop here. Yes, stop share. Yes, with the introduction. So let's hear from Gloria. Maybe.
Okay, good morning. My name is Gloria Thompson. Well, look earlier we did present result, but now it's formal. So me born right here when you see me sit down. I born and grow up here is a hill. It used to name before Barrio. It used to name Garong Hill. But when it was my grandfather them days. But when the Spanish come in now, them turn it out in Barrio Bella Vista, which is a nice name too, but why them never couldn't keep the, I always ask myself, why them couldn't keep the traditional name Garong Hill? Was one man who owned the whole of this hill, but instead sell it out. So my grandfather was one of the one them who could get to buy this hill here. So my father grew up here, my mother, everybody, all of us, all of my 6 brothers and sisters, all of we grew up here, and only me and the next one still there. Over 63 years actually.
Thank
I
you
am
very
63
much.
years.
Thank you, Gloria. Let's
Welcome. Welcome.
Ronald introduce himself.
Bonjour tout le monde. Non, moi c'est Ronald.
Bonjour.
Nadi yonde mo Kwéyòl. Mais I parle en anglais et espagnol parce que moi voulais tout le monde comprendre. So I said I would say 1-2 words in Spanish, but I will speak mostly in English and in Spanish for everyone to understand. But my name is Ronald. I am a PhD student here at UW St. Augustine. And as René said in his introduction, I am looking at cross-linguistic transfer in the writing of students, particularly how Creole speakers are affected when they are forced to produce English in standardized examinations. So that is my focus. I do consider myself a native speaker, though I don't consider myself as native and as fluent as my parents and my grandparents, etc. There is the generational gap, but it is a pleasure to participate and to represent and to stay tethered to the community that we're studying.
Thank you very much, Ronald. Maybe we can have Josephine.
Hello, buon tardi. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Josephine. I'm a native here in Aruba. My home language, my mother tongue is Papiamento. That's what the majority of people here in Aruba speak. I will be speaking, I was told that I can speak in Papiamento. Papiamento is my first language, so I'll be doing it slowly so you can understand a few words, but I'll throw a few English in there also. And yeah, so I will be speaking mostly on the importance of Papiamento in education, seeing that Papiamento is not one of the languages, not the language of instructions in our schools here in Aruba. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Josephine. Thanks for the introduction. Finally, let's go with Silvano Hodgson or Ervin. I don't know how he likes to be called. So let's see if you can introduce yourself. Silvano, we can't.
Unmute your mic, Ervin. I think you're still muted. Ervin, your mic is still on mute. So there's a button that should be good. Right.
Okay.
Ahora sí.
All right.
Bien.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. How you doing, brother? Well, mira Rama aquí, and I'm glad to be here in between you all, and really I appreciate that one, brother. René, the time that you have with me, and really I'm speaking here from Bluefield because Rama aquí don't have good internet, so I came Bluefield, so I work here Bluefield at the Huracán University here in Bluefield. So my name is Silvano Hodgson. I'm working with the Rama language, also with the Rama Creole. That you're going to hear some of the Rama Creole is different than the little Caribbean Patois Creole them that you hear around. I don't know if you understand it, but maybe sometimes you can understand more and less than this. So that is like a little things different than the real Creole in Bluefield and Corn Island Creole and Port Lagoon Creole. Okay, thank you very much, René. And then we're going to enjoy listening some different Rama Creole in this moment.
Great. Thank you, Ervin. As you can see, we have variety, and a lot of variety around. So my questions are going to be really simple, looking for complexity in the simplicity, right? Sometimes the most difficult part of explaining a complex panorama as the one that we have in the Caribbean is through simple things. So we are going to try to connect that French Creole to English Creole, to Iberian Creole, and the Caribbean in the islands, Caribbean, in the Central American Isthmus, and see how we can all connect to a nice conversation. So the first question maybe to Ronald and Silvano. When, and very important, how did you learn to speak Creole or to speak Ramaki or to speak St. Lucian? That will be the first question.
Okay, who will comment?
Yeah, we have like 2 questions for each. So yes, we have 35 minutes, you said, Clive, right?
Okay, I could begin?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, you can begin, Ervin.
Okay, good. René, thank you for the question. Milan, the Rama Creole, because the Rama Creole, the homie first language in Milan, and homie mama show me the Rama Creole, the Rama Creole. And the Rama Creole is the homie first language because it comes from the Rama and the conference between the Creole that we talk Bluefield, but it's not the same Creole that Bluefield talk. So it's a little mix up between the Rama language and the Rama Creole, because that is the only first language that we learn. And I learned the Rama Creole from small little boy playing about in the place, playing in the rain about all around. And so with that we learned the Creole, because the Rama Creole is the first language. So the Creole that we talk in Ramaki, we call it Rama Creole. Okay.
Thank you.
But if you want, I speak it in more English, so everybody can understand.
It's totally fine.
It sounds good. You sound good, man.
It's
Talk
totally
same way,
fine.
so we don't want no English. Talk same way, so.
No Spanish here, right? Ni
Me
español tampoco.
understand you, me understand you clear.
Yeah, but me
Okay,
understand it to
thank
Miss
you, thank
Gloria.
Let's listen to what Ronald has to say.
Well, I had every intention of speaking in English.
You can speak Creole. We have audience from all over the world. So
okay. Yeah, but I do want to say the first part of it in English, which is that in learning, I grew up around my parents and my grandparents who all spoke Creole. And I learned mostly by listening. They spoke Creole to each other. You know, it's so funny, and I'm sure many people on here have that experience as well. They felt like students or children in the household should speak English and shouldn't learn the Creole. And the Creole was almost something that they spoke to themselves, sometimes for privacy, sometimes. And there were a lot of attitudes about whether or not speaking Creole would hold you back from education, some kind of educational attainment. So I would say that my initial exposure was just from listening, not necessarily from participating, but they spoke it to themselves all the time. And I would consider for many members of my family, it is their first language, the language that they're most comfortable in, certainly the language that they enjoy expressing themselves in when they're speaking to each other. And I acquired it, so to speak. So it wasn't so much learning or rote learning, but acquisition and exposure. And I spoke most often to my late grandmother, who had in very limited competence in English. And so whenever you interacted with her in the household, or she would babysit you, etc., you would have to interact with her very heavily in French Creole. And that was my exposure. So I'm actually at this point in my life extremely grateful for her and grateful for that exposure.
Gracias. Thank you very much. I have a second question, maybe for Gloria and for Josephine. It's simple. How often do you speak Creole and who to? How often do you speak Papiamento? How often do you speak Limonese Creole? Whoever is fine.
Gloria, you want to go first?
Yeah, right. Me talk it every day. The only time I not talk it is when I go teach the Spanish to the children then. But otherwise, I breathe it. Even in I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and the congregation is in Creole English. It was in English standard. But when they see that the local people, the message wasn't reaching to them, it changed over into Creole. So even better yet, So, me take it money noon and night. I breathe it and I eat it away and left no because I would talk about it the whole day.
Thank you. Good. Josephine?
Okay, para mim, papiamento é um idioma de casa. Tá idioma que me usa para interaccionar com minha família, com meu amigo, não. Eta idioma é idioma que me escuta bastante da comunidade. Me papia da comunidade com ele. Eta é idioma de qual me sinha para minha futura profissão como docente de papiamento. E pues papiamento é idioma que me papia gente dia, tur dia, all day, every day.
Great. Is there, no, let's move on to the next question, because if not, we take a lot of time in every single one. Let's go to the next question, maybe Gloria and Ronald, okay? And what do most people in your country think about the Creole you speak? In St. Lucia, what do people think about St. Lucian Creole? And in Costa Rica, what do people think about Limonese Creole? In general, right?
Well, René, I will tell you something. First begin, the people them in Limon, Costa Rica, what Creole them think them talk standard English. Because them feel like some of the grandparents, them they come from England, them used to talk British English. But they never realized that was in no British English, them they talking Creole. Mix up with British English. So them put into them children, them say that them talk English standard. Is no a little bit them realizing say that them don't talk standard English. Them knowing say that them talk Creole, and especially when I talk to them and explain them why is it we don't talk standard English, them one dead.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Okay, that's a nice thing of it, right? So let's go. Yeah, it was
Ronald was supposed to answer the same question.
Ronald.
Yes.
Yes, yes, thank you. It was so interesting listening to that. You know, when I was growing up, there was this huge divide between old and young in French Creole. Kwéyòl was sort of seen as a home language, and it was spoken by the older generation and a lot of young people. So when I went to school, many young people did not speak it at all, didn't speak French Creole. We spoke actually like an English Creole that emerged out of contact between French Creole and English, mostly among ourselves, but we didn't speak it. But now there's this new rise and excitement in the Creole language because you have a genre of soca music, Denry segment, emerging with the Creole language. And then you hear young people all the time singing in the language. And most of the artists that are singing, they're from these rural communities and they're native speakers of Creole. They speak the language very well. So there's sort of an excitement and a bubbling and a growing of the sentiment and the attachment to the language among young people. So even though Creole has always been a part of St. Lucian identity, because everyone will be able to say some words in Creole, at least the curse words for sure, and many people speak it in part, even though they may not speak it as fluently as their parents. Young people nowadays, because of the music, because of the popularity, there's new interest in it. So our hope is really that it will lead to new conversations about Creole space in the classroom, in the courtroom, and as an official language, because even though so many people speak Creole, police officers have to use Creole in certain parts of the country to interact with their communities. School teachers use Creole. I went into certain schools and school teachers use Creole to translate and to teach, etc. It's still not an official language. So I'm hoping that popularity will lead to a conversation about making Creole official.
Perfect. Let's see here. Yes. the next question is about education, formal education. So maybe to Silvano and Josephine, did you receive any formal education, let's say in school, high school, in your native language, let's say Rama Creole or Papiamento? And I think that here, the reality is very different from one place to the other, but let's see what they have to say.
René, you really make something to big change, boy, because you know, the Rama Creole, we not learn that in the school neither, but we learn that at the house. We learn that playing all around. So all the thing that we do is learning just Creole, but what we learn in the school is only Spanish, because they said the Spanish is better than all the language. But don't know so, the Rama Creole is a good language too, because Rama Creole is mixed up like coffee and milk, you know. So that is something different that we learn, but we never get no instruction, like say, or people never learn it, so that the Creole language, the Creole Rama or the Rama Creole, that were different. Only they say, but what is that? How that go? Where that come? How it go? Where it come from? And all of the kind of craziness them they say, you know?
Yes. Is there any formal level of instruction of not Rama Creole, but Bluefields Creole, the Mosquito Coast Creole?
Okay, the Bluefield Creole, yes, because they try to work with the Belize sounding Creole. So they want to make the Creole like, may say, cow, tiar, cocoa cake, you know, but we don't say nothing like that. Rama Creole is not like that. So the Rama Creole is quite different. We say cocoa cake, the dori, the page, the aba, the comia, goyanda, put straight to Bluefield and it gone around the clothes. You know? All right.
Thank
so
you.
Yes, okay.
No, yes, continue.
So the Rama Creole no get no writing at the moment. So that will be a big project who you René, who learn the Rama Creole, like how you learn the Limonense Creole, you know, and that is different because only the Bluefield Creole, the Can Island Creole, the Orlagun Creole, and the Orinoco Creole, and all the people then that live in Creole language, different sounding. So the Bluefield Creole that then feel like they talk the English, but don't not say. That's what Gloria saying, that people in Bluefield, they say, and what are you talk? You talk Rama Creole. And what are you talk? I talk English. But finally, they say, ooh, chica, we only talk the ugly Creole.
Thank you for your response. Great. I think that the situation is different with Josephine in Papiamento, or no? Am I mistaken?
Well, the primary schools, the language of instruction is actually Dutch. Papiamento has been excluded from all the education, from learning and education. So Dutch is a language for us, which is itong idioma extranjero. It's not our language. It's something that's been how do you say, imposed on us. Yeah. So but slowly the community have seen that Papiamento is needed in our education. In the last few decades, there's been different investigations and studies on implementing Papiamento in our education, introducing Papiamento in our education, and slowly but surely we've seen like progress. Di año escolar 2002-2003, introducí Papiamento. Papiamento was introduced as a subject in secondary schools. There's been studies like the Bachelor Papiamento, the one that I'm doing right now, and also here in Aruba, and also the Masters in Papiamento in Curaçao, in the University of Curaçao. So slowly but surely, we've been working on implementing Papiamento in education, and that is why I want I'm studying to become a teacher of Papiamento, to put light on the fact that Papiamento is necessary in education, because it's been excluded for so many years, for so many decades from our education. And seeing that Papiamento is the primary language here in Aruba, it's very important to implement it in schools, seeing that the majority of kids, the majority of students speak Papiamento at home and has Papiamento as their mother tongue. We've also, there's in the last few years, there's been a proyecto called SCL Multilingual. It's a study that itong SCL pa nos hende ng basar ibi idioma materno di mayoría di emuchanan kuta papiamiento. Anto banda di essay como nos kuting hopi idioma de nos comunidad e 3 idioma mani inglés, espanhol y holandés kuta basta crucial de vida comunitario kinan Aruba. So yeah, we're working on it.
You're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely.
Muy bien, gracias, muy bien. Maybe we continue with one question for you at the same time. That'll be, in general, do you listen to Papiamento on the radio? Do you see it on TV, or now with the internet? How do you see that your language has adapted to this new means of communication that we have nowadays, like internet, social networks, and that? Josephine, just a little something.
Okay, so Papiamento is the language of the community. So you hear Papiamento in everything. Papiamento is the language that dominates in the news, in political reunions, in religion, in theater, in music. So Papiamento is dominant. But you still have the factor that English is the most popular, next to Papiamento is one of the most popular languages that the youths like to use amongst each other.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but still Papiamento is still the most popular language here in Aruba, and it's still not being used in education.
Okay, great. What about Ronald? What about St. Lucian Creole?
Ako na di yonde pa Kwéyòl, pusot satan Kwéyòl la. So again, I would just say a little sentence in Creole so everybody can hear it. But my connection right now is mostly through music. I love Zouk, and I absolutely love the new genre of music that is emerging in St. Lucia, particularly because of the language use. So I listen to it all the time, and I study it, in fact. And then, of course, during the COVID crisis, we have a lot of news and information that is being distributed in Creole for Creole speakers. So every time I listen to updates, I'm in Trinidad right now studying, but every time I listen to updates from home in St. Lucia, I hear the Creole being spoken. So that's very exciting for me, and that is how I stay connected to it. Other than that, I also am one of the people who teach it, who teaches it here. So I'm very excited about that, because there's a strong connection between French Creole in St. Lucia and in Trinidad, because we have Creole-speaking communities, Kwéyòl-speaking communities in Trinidad, like Papiamento, etc. And when we go there, our St. Lucian students, or the St. Lucian students at UE, they communicate fluently and fully with native speakers of French Creole in Papiamento. So it's very exciting to see a time gone by. I have behind me there the original grammar, John Jacob Thomas. It was basically the lingua franca of that entire part of the Caribbean. Okay. So, so many people in Grenada, in Guyana as well, in Trinidad and St. Lucia, they are connected to the language in different ways. So it's always interesting to see when you go speak to these older speakers in Papiamento, that they sound like my grandparents do, right here in the middle of Trinidad.
Thanks for the answer. I have one last question. And this is for you to see a comparison of two Creoles of Central America, that they are in two countries next to each other. The distance is very short, but realities are a little bit different. So for Silvano and for Gloria, this is the question. What did your grandparents or your parents think of the Creole language? What did they think, right? And how is it different, if so, from what you think now of the language? So maybe we can start with whoever, Ervin or Gloria.
Okay. The Rama Creole here especially in Rama Creole, is like the grandparents said that okay, this is the Hui language because the cover the Rama sounding, and then the Rama sounding is close to the Creole sounding, so it's mixed together. So they say okay, the all mama, and all papa then say that same. The Creole, the Rama Creole, the Hui, we share last Creole because that Hui first language that we learn, the house. And we not learn at the school, we learn at the house. And we'll always grow up with that. And we teach the picnic them, and the little one them, and the little iskama them. The iskama them, we call as children. Okay, so now the Rama language is quite now like a new language in this stage. Since 2000, people want to know why the Rama language and why the Rama Creole. You know, why they use Rama Creole and don't know Bluefield Creole. Okay. Because if you call Bluefield, you hear Bluefield Creole different than the Rama Creole. Because when you talk with Bluefield people, they don't understand the Rama Creole. They say, you talk Rama or you talk Rama, what kind of language you talk? You see, so it's different. So you have the example, René, when you call Rama, you think you talk in Limon and Creole, but you can't understand it. You remember. So it's different. Yeah, you remember that tentative boy. Yeah, and I tell you so that when you come back next time, you will learn more Rama Creole and better one too. And afterwards, you're going to make a big thing, boy, in the big country, I tell you. And that make a big change, you know? So the Rama Creole is something like a power and like a something new for we, because we don't have it in the classroom, but we learn it in the house. Okay. And we feel good, and we feel very good with the Rama Creole.
Good. So this positive encouraging of Creole at the home, it's different to what Gloria lived, right, Gloria? And with this, we close the last question we have, right? So Gloria, how is that different from what you lived with your parents? What did they tell you about Creole?
Yes, they used to like correct me plenty in the oaks. Like, for example, if I say, bring them the thing here, my father would jump and say, nothing down here, so. And I would say, but is where I learned to talk so then, if it's within in the oaks. So when you look, if you say, see, go for me, no, it was the next problem. Nothing down here in fee. So when you look, then take your and send me English school. And we can become about 6 of us and then send the whole of English school. But we learn English in English school, American English. But when we reach home, what you think we talking? The same Creole, Mama, where you cook? I'm hungry now. So it's something that it is in me already. So no matter, I can talk English and I can write it. Thank my parents, the math send me. But I wish if them did a live today to make me tell them, say, me did doing the real good thing, me did talking just like how uno did learn me to talk. No, English school was good because I can write in English and talk it, but see what I'm talking right now is what uno learn me. So it's nice. And I'm a Nicaraguan friend them from Bluefields too. But them talk Creole and sometimes me and them interact because then like up hill and downhill. And when they bread kind and all them thing and those things is what I like here too. So with that, I thank you for everything. For the moment, no? The opportunity for me, I could express myself in my own language and I never have to bite up my tongue trying to talk 2 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Great
that's
answer.
right. That's right.
Well, this is the end of the panel that we have planned for you, like to see the diversity, and we hope you have, enjoyed and took advantage of what we have had here, the diversity. So we are now open for questions, and well, Clive, you have the word
Yes. Thank you very much, René, and Creole speakers from across the Caribbean who are part of that panel. Really interesting, and I'm glad to the whole honor just loving the language and I'm not afraid for talking the language because I don't know, Miss Gloria, I don't know if you remember me now. You remember, so when they come to Costa Rica 2 years ago, when they come look for you, and then they have the little session at the place. Remember, you know, Miss Gloria? Miss Gloria don't remember me. Unmute your mic, Miss Gloria. Remember you?
When we did the Wolaba place, when you Wolaba run by the beach.
Yes. When they come look for you, man, when they come down there and them have a session and book signing and go on and dancing and go on and you know, so me man up in the dancing and thing. Remember you, Miss Gloria? So yes, you know, if you talk up in your nose, you talk your language, and nobody tell you say you have to talk no English or not like that. You talk your language and you're proud of your language. And that me I talk about, Miss Gloria. Talk about. So here me have two questions. And then I go open it up to anybody who the Zoom meeting, because I say Keisha join the Zoom meeting. I say Hector in the Zoom meeting. I say Marisol, Professor Robertson, aka Pupa, in the meeting. And Renata. I'm gonna give them people a chance to ask questions if them have no question, right? So my first question for the Guyanese crew. So now, like I want to start this translation project for COVID, right? Una feel say una would have continued do this if other things arise, like earthquake, hurricane, any other kind of national disaster, any kind of state of emergency. Una feel una prepare for utilize the same kind of machinery, utilize the same kind of resource then to do something like that? What I say?
Well, yes. in terms of disaster, Guyana look like it's in a continual state of perpetual disaster. So forget disaster. Continual state of political disaster.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes, definitely. And actually, I had started to do some interviews with the translators, asking them if they would be willing to continue this work. And quite a few of them are saying, yes, of course, we'll be willing. Some of them are shy about going on radio or TV, but they don't mind continuing with the actual translating work.
Right.
And I could add to Clive that it is not only limited to disasters.
Yes.
It is a case that we will translate any and everything that we're approached to do, pretty much. Already there was someone from the UN EP that contacted us to do work for translating some really technical material that they had in English to be translated in these languages. So it is definitely something that we are going to continue to do all the time. And I don't see it as a project that we will stop anytime soon.
Good.
As long as we have the human resources to continue.
Yes, right. One of the things that I encourage you to do, Tamara and Charlene and Ovid, when you do the translation, them, whether a radio, TV, whatever, see if you can compile them into something and put it maybe on a YouTube channel. So that anybody, so that anybody can research it, and anybody in the Caribbean can take it and say, see, we have public service announcement in a YY, in a Locono, in a Creolese, and so on, right? So that would have good if you could compile it, whether on a website, whether you use YouTube, send it to the Society of the Caribbean Linguistics who can promote it. So that anybody can see the work when I do, acknowledge it, because you see now, that's the other important thing. We have to make sure that the people who do the work get the credit, right? Yeah. And when you put in a woody upon the work and time, and maybe even on our own money in certain cases, we don't know. We have to get some kind of recognition, we have to get some kind of credit. So make sure send on the channel the information through the Society of the Caribbean Linguistics, and we're going to promote as much as possible. And if possible, even lend whoever kind of support we can. Whether they need somebody for this technical side of things, we can always help. So that's my first question for the Guyanese group. We have a question for René and your panel now. well, may I ask you, René, and then we'll go to Marisol. René, how you get them people together? What make you get them people together? And you as a man, René, you study Creole, you're a native speaker Creole too. So we need to hear from you too. What you think about, you know, even your upbringing, and I use your Creole language, even to the point here. How you feel about your Creole language, how you bring them people together, why you think it's important for have them discussion here. René, anybody on your panel?
Yeah. I bring people together.
Yeah.
Right. So first of all, not a speaker Creole, right? So I learned that thank Gloria Udaya. So I try to talk a little bit, but not like you. You know that flavor, I miss the flavor. I have the Latino flavor though. But you know, it's right talking to people like CM thing, right? We never go there like say, hey, we have to do this and these are the university project and all that. So you ask first the people what if they want to do this, then we have to do that together.
Right.
That's the simple thing. So the first time I went to Limon and tried to talk to them, it was really difficult. It took me like 2, 3, 4 years to first gather a little group to work. So it's just that. It's simple. We are all the same people. So if we go there and talk like people, not as an institution, and that's why I said it's important to take into account first the need of the community to make it possible through the academia, not the other way around.
Yes.
If we start from academia to town, it's not gonna work. If we start from town or from community to academia, it's going to probably work better. I don't know if it works. So that's the thing. Being a member out of the linguistic community, going there, and it has taught me a lot of things. And among those things is that you have to start from scratch, side by side with people, and then show people that you are there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you are publishing or if you are sending papers or if what matters is it's the language itself, right? So that's what I probably have to say about
I agree. Start with the people and start with the language. You know, we as linguists, we are one of the few researchers them where we center the people and we center them language, right? Even though we are taking them recording and we're going to publish a paper and them kind of thing, that we'll go with conference.
Good.
We center the people and we'll make sure that the people dep on the front line, dep on the front, you know, and if anything, we can welcome them in a forum like this. Community member, side a professor, and everybody attack and everybody use them language and thing, right?
Yep.
Marisol, you have a question? Unmute your mic and ask your question. Ask it in a Creole too.
I'm all excited because in the middle of this COVID and laptop, being able to listen to people talking about Creolistics is fantastic. So I'm going to use all of the languages that I use. And René, gracias montones por organizar esto. Excelente trabajo, muy buen trabajo.
Gracias.
Toda esa gente. So I have I have multiple questions, but I'm going to go to my own because I'm from Limon. I'm from Limon, and Limonese Creole is my thing too. So this question is directly for Gloria, but it's going to include a little bit of all of you guys. Silvano was talking about learning the language at home, and sometimes it's kind of difficult sometimes, as Gloria mentioned, because they used to tell us that learning the language was for a big people talk, so we would listen it and we would repeat it, but then we would get corrected. No talk like that. That is bad English. Don't talk like that. That is that broken thing, that thing. Okay. So Gloria, Gloria, we don't know each other. We are neighbors. I'm from Corrales. You're from Garron Hill. But you think, say, young people, them using it in Limon? You know, I read a whole heap of paper, them write about Limon. And some of these paper, them say, in like 15, 20 years, the language will no longer be there. What do you think? You think young people, them using it?
Well, as far as I see, that they're not using it, Them not using it. The most of them not using it. And that thing, it hurt me and it saddened me because I can't fault them. I feel fault them parents because is in the home is where you learn it. And
But
if the parents will only talk to them children them in Spanish from them band, is logically said that when they grow with them, not even they want to hear about that.
Yeah.
So the parents them is who I blame. To
But
not talk, huh?
But Gloria, you think that I'm not using it or them not using it in front of you?
No, I always around young people. And anytime I pass and I listen, when I see a group of black children, I listen to hear what language them talking because I always want curious to know where they talk. So if it's Spanish and the most of the time,
Them talking in
most of the
Spanish.
time, and I got Spanish school teacher, we have black children in there, and when you talk to them in Creole, them don't understand you. That is my side of what I see, no?
Okay.
But right now, maybe you have a group of people who are fighting to make the children then come back and talk Creole. But that won't be a tough fight because
But make I tell you something so you can feel good. I was in Limon and I went to one of these prominent schools to go get a talk, and I would go get a talk in Spanish.
Yeah.
As soon as I finished my talk, turn me back, all of the school children, them was talking in Creole. They was talking in Creole. They was talking about me in Creole because I say I'm from the University of Puerto Rico. Them said this woman, she can only speak Spanish. She can't speak Creole. She can't talk Creole. So as soon as I turn me back, all of them in the classroom start talking, not only the black children, them. All of them. So I go and I ask them, fast and a linguist and the dichotomy of being a native speaker and a linguist. I go ask them. Sure, I have to go buy a cup one thing for them, for them to sit down with me. But ask them, and the white children them tell me, say, that them have to learn it if they want to belong to the group. But I said, but you talk this in front of your father and your mother? No, sir. This is only we. So yes. I definitely think like you, Gloria, that in some spaces we cannot recognize that the young people then using it.
Yes.
But there's one young man, and I'm going to use him as an example because his name is my brother, Michael Joseph, and him doing this music and him using the Creole. And he has a lot of him, have a whole heap of followers, people them same age and a little bit younger. And them following the music, them love the music. Then some of the things that we do, and something that I have done really, really wrong, is that when I'm studying the language, I only studying the language that the black people use in Limon. But then we have a whole heap of people, them from Talamanca and all of them places that them native, that they use the language too. And then we have a whole heap of the Chinese shop them that them not new. Them been there from ever and ever. And when
don't start it.
Yes, anytime you go into the Chinese shop, you not talk to them in Spanish, you talk to them in the Creole. So I think, yes, in front of us, especially when they say big people, and if, the teacher and the professor, the past and things like that, they're not going to use it. My younger brother, Michael, big musician, he has never talked the Creole language to me. I know him can talk it because I hear it outside in the street. Okay, so then I have two daughters, Lucia and Natalia. Lucia was born in the US and Natalia here in Puerto Rico. And when they were younger, to be able to communicate with my granny, then they have to learn some Creole. So they're far away from Limon, them in Puerto Rico. And anytime this woman is a Bex, they're going to use Spanish. She's not going to use English, standard English, she's going to use Creole. And them can't understand anything. So anytime they go back to Limon, you know, everybody look at them and say them woman them from them girl them from Puerto Rico, them only speak English or Spanish. But then them pat the Creole and everybody stand up, nah, them can't use it.
That's
so
right.
That,
Marisol, I'm going to give Keisha a chance to ask a question.
Go for it.
Yeah, man. So
Gloria,
Keisha, then Renata. So
it was a good question.
So Keisha, you had a question for Josephine, and then after Keisha, Renata.
Yeah. Hi, Josephine. Sorry, I'm in the library, so I'm gonna try and speak a little low. Pero me quiero punta tocante que nos va así para valorar Papiamento un tiki más en educación como si por ejemplo abota teacher foto estudiando por virando un teacher, ¿no? So Kiko puto piensa nos va así para valorar por ejemplo ahora aquí I want to say not that it's not shifting, but I feel like there is a bit of the shift that, you know, we have like the Teachers College, IPA in Aruba. We have, in, like you said, in Curacao and in Aruba, Papiamento is at the university level. But still at the primary and the secondary level, Papiamento is a language, subject language. And the kids there, the research that I've been doing so far, what I noticed is that a lot of the kids, when they hear Papiamento compared to the other languages that are present around them, Dutch, Spanish, and English, they're mostly like, yeah, it's great for us to learn it because, you know, it's our culture. But it's not on the same level as English, for example. For them, English is like, man, you know, I can make my own YouTube channel. I can be an Instagram star. You know, a lot of them are really interested in that. So I guess my question is, as an upcoming teacher, what do you feel or what do you see or what is being taught to you guys about how to introduce Papiamento into a way that not only the students, but I think as well the administration would feel a little bit more like, okay, si nos está valorando esse idioma.
Boa tarde, Keisha. Danke para a pergunta. Well, sempre Papiamento aguardo mirar como idioma inferior. E a mentalidade aqui de nos antepassados não sempre aqui dá, ela vai de geração para geração. E é nós dever como futuro docente para cambiar a mentalidade aqui, door de fazer Papiamento trobe atrativo para aluno não. E também a maneira de mencionar a introduzir projeto novo, escola multilingual. Escola multilingual, nós introduzimos em 2 diferentes escolas piloto. Então, como dizer, o resultado está sumamente positivo. Na onda que muitos não recebem Papiamento como idioma instrução na escola primária de 1ª até 6ª, não recebem Papiamento como idioma de instrução. E banda de aqui na recebi idioma de holandês, inglês e espanhol como uma matéria. Então, é resultado sumamente positivo. Aluna aqui vai para a escola secundária, onde o resultado é docente na mesa explica com muito aqui comparar com muito não que se vai dor de ensinança tradicional, com uma diferença grande entre alunos que tem uma diferença enorme entre nós. Aluno não está mais outspoken, não está mais crítico, não está assim mais pergunta, não está mais não por explicar, não emoção, não sentimento, não. Pois me tá quer que o mestre por introduzir Papiamento como idioma de instrução, de ensinança, para assim por você ajuda aluno não valorizar nos idioma mais e poner para estudar na universidade.
Sorry, can I just say one more thing? Claro, is it okay? Because me pensa quando por exemplo me corre que ora ministro de educação abing disse okay sim nós queremos escola multilingual na tua escola na Aruba. O opinião de tal maneira nós não queremos ser por exemplo nós muito não trabalhamos so me saco Joyce Pereira da tiki tocante essa aqui também, pero Kiko abota pensa no espaço para não cambia a mentalidade, I guess sim, cambia a mentalidade, pero para o público mesmo reparar, por exemplo, nós temos tour studies, não, nós temos tour coisa que diz assim, se você sim de língua materna, você vai mais leu, se você sim anda em idioma que você não conhece at all, pero ainda tem fear na sua visa de maior não especificamente que ok, se eu sim na Papiamento, like eu não trabalho Holanda para estudar, por exemplo, se holandês não trabalha Japão, ou se inglês não trabalha Japão, which we know English not a problem for them.
Correcto.
So, Kiko pensa.
É resultado ng proyecto multilingual taku sobre é mucha aqui de escola multilingual começar a receber holandês como matéria de vierde classe. Ok, dus de eerste klas na receber papiamento como idioma de instrução e de vierde classe na começar a receber holandês como matéria. E o resultado ng awoko na ba escola secundário ta mostra que nang nível de holandês dariba é mesmo nível de aluno que arranha vamos dizer, enseñanza tradicional, e dariba mesmo nível, o holandês dariba mesmo nível, dus não tem nada diferente, não está mais arriba e não está mais abaixo tampouco, não dariba mesmo nível de aluno que a receber holandês de eerste até que zesde. Ok? Dus, mita quer nós tem resultado não, nós mesmo desconscientizar o povo de resultado não que nós mesmo assim não vigente, nós mesmo mostrando o resultado não e que está funcionando. Ok? Dus, essa é a minha opinião, dus nós mesmo conscientizar o povo de resultado não que nós ganha. Também outro resultado está que papiamento, nível de domínio de papiamento está muito mais alto, que é muito não não a receber papiamento como um idioma de instrução de enseñanza. E outro resultado está a mostra que o papiamento de muito não que não a receber papiamento como instrução, dus idioma de instrução, su papiamento está melhor que o holandês mesmo. Dus nós mesmos mostra, nós mesmos saca o resultado na quem to conscientizar o povo de resultado na aqui. E com bom efeito projeto aqui tem riba nos alunos não, riba nos mucha não. E riba na futuro, na identidade.
All right. Muchos danke. All right. So, Renata, you have a question as well?
I want to...
So, mi want fristeru no na atori disi. Den gaya namang spesrutu me frister moro bika den duan biji roko. Dan atratori sautaki a tongotori na a semsaninen ala den kondre pewe tak den tongo lekseranan tongo. You want the translation? This is my Creole.
Okay. Yes.
Have you understood?
Just a little bit.
Odi. So I started with greeting you and congratulating you on this project. And then I made a remark that the problems exposed here are the same for all, I think more or less all Creole languages, because I could recognize my linguistic profile, the profile of my country, in the story of Costa Rica, Costa Rica is there. Right. And then, but what my question is, I congratulated I thought you heard me saying Guyanamang. Is Guyanese in my mother tongue. I congratulate you on this excellent job. I want to know more and to tell you, you moved me, you motivated me to do this in our country, because there are, apart from all these indigenous languages, we have 5-6 Creole languages with Sranantongo is a a national language, yes? But then we also have languages of the indigenous people. But then again, we have Bhojpuri is still living in my country. We have Caribbean Hindi in Suriname. We have the Javanese have their languages and all those people. So we need this model, yes? With your consent, we can introduce, we have to adapt it, of course, we can introduce it. What I want to ask, do I have your consent, Ms. Wilkinson?
I do not have such power to give you consent, but I know that you can seize the moment and move on.
Yes, okay. But you know, then what I want to know, the training, what was it about? Was the training for the people you were the trainees? Were it on translation strategies? What was the content? Tell me some more about the training. Yes. And who did you train?
The training was for all of us because we were all, as Prof likes to say, we were all making it up as we were going along. So we were teaching ourselves and each other at the same time.
What was the content?
The most essential content was, of course, how to look at technical language and what to do with the technical language. It's really, we just really give you the tip of the iceberg here. And we are still even in the tip of the iceberg because the project we have now has a lot of technical language and it is still problematic. How
I know, so you have...
So we had... The difficulty is the space and time issue of having sitting people with different languages together and hearing one, and to find the difficulty is to find people that are almost have equal facility in both English and the indigenous language.
That's the informants. But so you had a multidisciplinary team. You had anthropologists in your team. You had physicians in your team, is that? And of course, linguists.
We had indigenous speakers. We had native.
Of course, informants, yes.
You had language activists and linguists. We did not have such a sophisticated collection, unless, of course, our linguists would like to be called part of a sophisticated collection. But barefoot.
We have
digitally barefoot, digitally barefoot on the ground.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I once ete wan lehisi mi wan fristeru no en taku grand tani favor ko saudu ya en lek fa brada Clive taki awro dis setengo moro fara te moro san mitunu fu de ready fu do awroko. Thank you.
All right.
I hope you've understood.
You have to go teach me how to respond to that, Renata. You have to go teach me. Yes.
Say Grantani. Say Grantani.
Grantani.
Mr. Forster.
Thank you very much. It's Grantani.
I have a question.
Yes, Ovid. Ovid has a question, and then we're going to go to Ronald.
And this is for the Caribbean speakers. I can't remember all their names, but Miss Gloria and Miss Aruba. Marisol, Nicaragua.
Josephine, Marisol, and Miss Gloria, right. Yes.
In your drive to promote your indigenous languages, similar like what we're doing here, I'm interested to know what language writing system are you employing to do that? Because your suggestions might help us in moving forward over here.
Well, I'll start with Josephine. Josephine, you want to answer that? Or maybe somebody from the Guyana team, Tamiran. So he's asking about writing system. What writing system is being used in the other Caribbean territories? Well, I can tell you, Ovid, for Jamaican Creole, we have an official writing system that was developed in the 60s, but updated by the Jamaica Language Unit. So there's an official writing system for Jamaican Creole. I'm not sure if that is what you were asking about in terms of writing system, Ovid.
Well, I'm hearing about different languages, Dutch, Papiamento, Spanish, English. So I just want to know which is the from which language is the adopted writing system that you're employing for the indigenous language?
Could I intervene here?
All right, Prof.
Each language has its own writing system. In Guyana, Creolese has a writing system. And as far as I know, at least many of the indigenous languages have their own writing system. Typically, we all use the Roman alphabet, the Latin alphabet, but the sound values that are given to the Latin alphabet are different across languages. So that a letter like J, for example, would in most of the English influent languages, be pronounced J. But you may very well find that J also represents the sound Y in other languages, and so on. So you can't have a writing system that is applied to all languages. You have to have one writing system for a language. So the answer is that St. Lucian Creole has a writing system that was developed back in 1980 that is also similar to the one that is used for Martinique and Guadeloupe, right? So Haitian Creole, which is another French Creole, has its own writing system, but similar to the one for St. Lucia and Dominica. Jamaican has a writing system, and Guyanese Creole has a writing system, which is very similar to the one for Jamaican, but adapted for the sounds of Guyanese Creole as opposed to Jamaican. So that each one, when linguists come in, particularly the Bible translators and so on, and they work with particular indigenous groups in Guyana and they develop a writing system, it is specific to that language because the sounds of that language work in a certain kind of way. You take the Latin alphabet and you give them, you say, well, when we write the letter J, it means or it represents yo in this language, right? And that is how you assign the sound values to the letters of the Latin alphabet. So you cannot take one writing system and apply it to other languages. That is what is done particularly with like Creole languages, where you take the English writing system and apply it to Guyanese Creole, it don't work. So any proper writing system that is going to be used in schools for publication, for communication and so on, has got to be standard and tailor-made for that language. And I would say that it is true for all of the languages. Papiamento has actually got two writing systems. One that is used in Curacao and a separate one in Aruba. The Aruba one kind of borrows a lot from Spanish and Spanish rules of writing. So, but basically, it's each language has got its own writing system, and in some cases, one language like Papiamento has two separate writing systems.
Right.
Yeah. So Papiamento has two different writing system. Aruba has Papiamento, which is based on the etymologia, so based on the origin of the word. And Curacao and Bonaire has a phonological writing system, which is based on the sounds of the words.
And sorry, can I?
Well, Keisha, before you come in, Ronald has a question, and he's been waiting for a while. I'm going to ask Ronald.
No, I was just going to add to that, but no worries, later.
So unmute your mic, Ronald, and ask your question.
Yes, well, I actually had two. You mentioned Keisha. I had two comments. I wanted to respond to what Keisha was asking earlier about language attitudes. But first, to Ovid's question, Prof did mention it. We do have a writing system in St. Lucia. Back in the 80s, you had about 3 writing systems swimming around with just slight differences. So, for example, 2 accents on the E, etc. On Daisy, while it was still being decided. But for now, we have Kwéyòl, which came out of the group Mouvement Kwéyòl, which is basically the official writing system. And that is the one that you get from the Monsignor Patrick Anthony Folk Research Center in St. Lucia. And that's what our dictionary is written in. That is what the New Testament is written in, etc. So we have an official writing system. That is wonderful because it is, there's a one-to-one relationship between sounds and letters. So it isn't opaque like it is in English, for example. So anybody can learn it. So in addition to teaching it in school, people can teach themselves. And I wanted to just speak a little bit about language attitudes because Keisha and Josephine were speaking really about language attitudes, education, etc. And I wanted to comment. And I'll say a little piece here in Creole because I know we have some French Creole speakers listening. Saint-Lucien, ja savent Kwéyòl là important pour qu'il te, pour héritage et tout ça. Mais nous n'y pouvons pas aller échanger l'idée d'éducation, de santé et loi aussi. So what I'm trying to say is that we already know that the language is important for our culture, for our heritage, etc. We index our identity in St. Lucia by speaking French Creole. The problem is that we're not having wider conversations about how important the language is for the education system, for the bank, for health, etc. And in this COVID crisis, we saw how important it was because at first, the prime minister would speak and health officials would speak, and one of the ministers who would just translate what was said in French Creole. Eventually, it came to pass that you would have long translations and proper interpretation being done by one of the actors and Creole activists in St. Lucia, a few of them actually, doing it for every one of the briefings because they realized that all of the information, the technical terms, what was happening, it was not reaching people who are L1 speakers of Creole who might not have the same kind of competence or understanding in English. And that is something that's happening every day. It's not just happening in COVID. It's happening when people go to doctors, for example, and their doctors might not be able to speak Creole very well, so they cannot explain their symptoms or explain what's happening to them. I see it in education as well, that you have students who are clearly L1 speakers of Creole, and when they're writing all the grammatical structures, you have all that cross-linguistic transfer from Kwéyòl, and these students are held back in the educational system in standardized exams, etc. It happens in the bank, for example. I have a friend who works at the bank who tells me that several times a day, he will have to say something that he said in English in Kwéyòl so that the person that he is speaking to and interacting with will understand. Yet, even if it is a part of our identity, it's a part of our music, it's a part of who we are, we do not make it official so that it can become something that we can use in these formal institutions. And that's where I think the attitude and the shift needs to happen. It needs to move from familial and personal and informal to a formal space so that people who function mostly in that language can be included. I just wanted to add that to the conversation that Keisha and Josephine were having earlier.
Thank you, Ronald. All right, so Charlene, I see you have your hand up, but I'm going to ask Professor Robertson if you had a question as well. Prof. Robertson, Pupa, let us know if you have a question. Unmute your mic and give us a blessing. Long time we don't hear from you, Prof. Robertson. So just unmute your mic.
Yes, Clive. I don't really have a question. I'm very pleased at what is happening. I am particularly pleased that the Guyana language unit is receiving the confidence of the rest of the Caribbean society. I think Hubert and Charlene and the people who, and Tamaran, who were sort of the movers, and Ovid, that these people have really lit an important candle in this whole area of language issues. On one or two occasions, I've wondered about, say, when Ronald was talking just now, I know that, well, I think that in St. Lucia also there are other areas, like the courts, where there's a lot of discrimination. And I know also that when it comes to Guyana, even though we make the distinction so easily with French, Patois, and with Creole and English, and although there are many Creole speakers in the interior Guyana, but I know when we get to Guyana, we tend to think that the Guyanese Creole speaker is not discriminated against in medical practice. Well, I mean, by discrimination, I don't mean negatively that you will set out to discriminate against them, but they're disadvantaged in the system. And I've had recent experiences with doctors, interestingly enough, Cuban-trained doctors in Guyana who shocked me by speaking to me in Guyanese Creole. Soon as this, and I mean, there was no reason for them to do it except that maybe I look a little old and maybe I look more stupid now than I used to look. But But when it happened, I said, oh, these fellas are on the ball. They understand they could not deal with people who have serious ailments if they did it in standard English. At least they wouldn't get very far in those discussions. I'm just throwing that in now because they don't want us to feel that where you have English lexicon to English standard English or Jamaican English or Guyanese English, that people automatically get understood in critical areas like the courts and the medical practice in particular, although there are other areas of discrimination.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Robertson. For those of you who don't know, Professor Robertson has been a long-standing member of the Society for Caribbean Linguistics. For many of us, he was the person who gave us our first field research experience. Carry going to the Guyana bush and left way down there for fend for ourselves.
don't think I'm going to put forward any regrets. Those are the happiest moments of my academic life.
Yes, it's true. Right, carried down to the Guyanese in the Suriname bush and left with down there for struggle and do research. And we are the better for having done so. Charlene, you have your hand up. I think this might be the last question because we're just about out of time now. Unmute your mic, Charlene. And Hector, you have a question as well? Okay, so Charlene and then Hector.
It's a comment, and I'm not going to.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just going to leave it here. Professor Devney should use the room. But I am not as optimistic about the future as I'm hearing here, because what I'm sensing out there in the people who run the system is that they are going to they're seeing a world where these languages that impede the learning of the powerful languages are eventually going to come out and stop giving us so much trouble. I don't think they're really committed to a multilingual world. I don't think that the people who run the system understand what it means to live in a multilingual world. I don't think so. Maybe being in Guyana has made me jaded and hopeless, but that's the sense I get, that even when the doctor speaks to you that way, you said it, Prof, he's looking down at you in a way. He's, oh my gosh, can't talk English, let him come down to you. And you can't get even professionals to speak Creole in professional settings, professionals who are fluent in Creole. Nobody else in the room, no foreigner, no nobody. And yet they must sit down there and they must talk English. I don't understand it. I could go away with talking English because I grew up with English. But some people who don't grow up with English insist on talking it in a professional setting.
Yeah. Clive, let me just bring some comfort to Charlene. Yes. Charlene, 54 years ago, I was walking in Mona with somebody who turned out to be a Guyanese linguist as well. And she, sorry, I didn't intend to genderize it, but she said to me that the Creole was going to die. What was the purpose? That was 54, that's 1966. Yes. You calculate it.
Yeah.
All right? So Charlene, don't let that make you feel so negative about it. I just thought I'd said that in there, and that's one of the good reasons we have to get in the field.
Thanks for that, Prof. Hector, you had a question?
Yes, this question is for Gloria.
Yes, Miss Gloria.
What is the difference between Creole and Meka tell you? And the second question is, when you were small, you spoke Creole, but English Creole. So this generation, is it that they're mixing English with Spanish and still calling it Creole?
Yes. All right. The first answer for the first question. Make I tell you is not no language. Because make I tell you say in Spanish he say déjeme decirle. It's a thing what we used to have when we were young. We used to like say, make I tell you something when we fighting. So for everything we say, make I tell you, you can't lick me. Or make I tell you, my mother can beat your man. And so when the Spaniard them here we always repeating, make I tell you, then say, esos negros hablan una cosa que se llama make I tell you. And just to that no, then feel like say, make I tell you is the name of what we thought. That's is a confusion. But it don't make I feel bad because I know better. But who don't know better than feel offended because in them all the time we stay so long as I make I tell you. But I know what they mean to ask me, so sometimes I correct them and sometimes I just make it slide because in sometimes it feel like when you're running down the wind and you can't catch it. So
Yes,
I just
yes.
make it slide a kind of way. Depends on who telling me.
Right.
And the next answer for the next question was what you did ask me again?
Reminder.
Is Creole changing from only English Creole, or now is it mixed with Spanish to be English and Spanish Creole together? What does the next generation speak?
Unmute your mic, Miss Gloria. Miss Gloria, unmute your mic. Yes. Unmute it. You press the mute button. Unmute the mic. We can't hear you, Miss Gloria.
Gloria, quite el mute.
It look like you pressed the mute button.
No se
press the-
oye.
Clive, you should be on mute. You should be able to unmute it, Clive.
No, I can. All right, good.
Ya.
Take out the basura to the meat to take out garbage or the trash. So we coming up with that. Take out the basura. Or when the truck come in, the garbage truck, they say the basura truck come in. But basura is Spanish. So we missed it. And the next thing is we never used to say is because she tell me that. We used to say SK. And SK is a Spanish word.
Yes.
So
I would like to add something. Can I? Do we have time?
Yes, it look like you press mute again, Miss Gloria. I'm not sure why keep going on mute.
plenty look word that we don't know in English, we fling the Spanish in it. Because
Right.
in really and truly, plenty word we don't know it in Creole, not in English. So
Yes.
we put Spanish in it.
All right, thanks, Miss Gloria.
I would like to add something.
Yes, René, quickly.
Just fast, just to answer, kind of summarizing the two questions you asked.
That's it. Any other question?
No, that's it, Miss Gloria. That's it for now.
The thing of Creoling, make I tell you, is simply a matter of naming the language, right? So the name make I tell you was imposed by a linguist back in the 70s. Gloria gave, but it's been called patois, it's been called make I tell you, it's been called trash, it's been called broken English, it's been called Creole, called Limonese Creole. Right now we consulted the population, the community, and they came up with Limon Creole. That's the name I personally use in the work we do. But it's a matter of names. Probably this is a little bit weird for the other speakers of Creole, but in Costa Rica, if you ask 5 different people will give you different ideas of what the language they speak. Some of them think they speak English, some of them think they speak Creole. So it's a fragmented what we have. So Creole and make I tell you and patois, it's all the same. It's arose with different names, right? And the other thing you were asking about the mixture of Creole, it's 150 years that the Creole has been in a Spanish-speaking country. So of course we have lexicon that it's being influenced by Spanish, as Gloria said, but also we have discovered that there are some phonological features, morphological and syntactic features from Spanish affecting the Creole. So right now the population is bilingual, is Spanish and Creole. English is being lost. So that's kind of a general idea of what's happening.
All right, thank you very much, René. Well, on that note, I think we can bring this session to a close, and indeed the first ever Caribbean Language Virtual Festival being run by the Society for Caribbean Linguistics. As we mentioned at the start of the festival, we would have all been in Trinidad this week, right? Having a good time, fetting, liming, and maybe doing some presentations along the way, right? But as it turns out, you know, we had to change things up a bit. This is the first of the, you know, virtual events that we plan to run out. All being well, we shall have more events like this occurring throughout the year. Definitely during the years when we don't have a conference, we shall keep connected virtually, because now that we know it is possible, there's no reason why it shouldn't be a regular thing for us to meet like this, discuss issues, respond to whatever kind of problems in the different territories that might lend themselves to linguistic reasoning. We have the resources, we have the people. There's no reason why we shouldn't be out there talking to the world. Miss Gloria, you're going to be on YouTube because we plan to upload this to YouTube. So it's going to be on our YouTube channel, Society for Caribbean Linguistics, so you can share it with everybody. Everybody in Costa Rica, everybody in Limon can see up on YouTube. Everybody in the world can see up on YouTube. That's a plan. Joanne was here earlier, but I think she encountered some technical problems, so she had to sign off. So on behalf of the Society for Caribbean Linguistics, I want to thank you all for turning out for this session. Thank you all for participating over the course of the 2 days with the Virtual Language Festival. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, thank you as well. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for sharing the video. Thank you for your questions. We can't wait to reconnect with you virtually in the months ahead and face-to-face in 2022 when we have the next staging of the Society for Caribbean Linguistics Conference. By that time, it will be our 50th anniversary. Big people are 50 years old. The society is old enough to have a grandchild now. 2 years from now, we'll be in Trinidad. Can't wait to see you. Thank you all for tuning in. That's it for now. I'm signing off. Everybody give us a wave. Yeah. All right, folks. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
All right. Bye, Miss Gloria.
Bye. Thank you.
Yes.
Ayo.
Yes. Bye, Josephine.
Thanks for
Masya
everything.
thank you.
Yes. Take care. Take care. Muchas danke.